Hi, I'm Pox.
Couch guy.
You're watching the Two Smart Guys show, where every week we go over the latest hacks, mods, we do little tutorials, news.
Hey, we have a hack this week.
Yes, we finally do. We're hacking this little guy right here.
Thank you, Magic Lantern, and thank you for giving everyone their wet dream and giving Canon RAW. Not that it's perfect for everybody. Let's make perfectly clear that RAW is not probably the end-all be-all for everybody, but it's what everybody wanted. So
yeah, it's so just a little bit of background on what is RAW and why are people so excited about it. If you're not familiar with it, it's the image straight from the sensor, pretty much. Very minimally processed.
All of the data.
Yeah.
All of the data off the sensor.
So the reasons why they haven't done this before, for a lot of reasons, is just simply storage, and
it's a huge amount of data.
It's just a large files.
To be honest, it's a massive. Well, as we've tried to explain in the past, in the previous shows, I've talked about this and why sometimes these high bitrate hacks kind of make me nervous, is because data equals heat, and that's probably the nicest way I can put it. The more data you're pumping through, the more heat you're running through. So there are some, there's some concerns in there when it comes to temperature, especially for something that's like kind of an enclosed environment that's not really meant for the ventilation, that stuff. But what's nice is, they do have faster cards than they've had in the past. So you have to have a 1,000 speed card to really make this work well. And you have to have big cards, but you still are restricted by the 4 GB file size limit because there's no way around that restrictions. So it's a neat hack. I think it's fun. I think that it's buyer beware kind of hack because obviously it voids your warranty.
It doesn't do sound, but if you're doing
second system sound, it takes care of that.
It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't do the sync sound though, which is what is interesting because it's not. There's no sound.
Yeah,
right?
There's no sound. Or
so it does.
Yeah, no sound.
Yeah,
I don't think.
So, but that's okay for most things because hell, for years we've shot film without sound, so I'm pretty sure we're okay.
Oh yeah. So the way that a lot of people talk about RAW is like a negative, because you have more control over like the white balance and stuff. You can adjust it after the fact.
Yeah, you can adjust the white balance. You can adjust a little bit of the color, like the color spacing is flexible in that area. Things that aren't really changeable are things like iris. You can change your ISO because your sensitivity is based on your data readout more than it is. Every camera is a little bit different, but the ISO should be able to changeable. But things that were in the lens, you can't change. So if it's your focus, if it's your aperture, you can't change that stuff. But you can change things that are like data controlled. So. Yeah,
so it's pretty cool stuff. I want to give everybody a little tutorial on how to get the Magic Lantern. One word warning is that theoretically it could damage your camera.
This comes with the same warning that we've given for every other hack that we've ever done, be it a phone or be it anything else. You can, and some people do, brick their device by doing this hack. So if you do this, you take responsibility yourself.
Now, that being said, there's a lot of fail-safes in here. Supposedly, the camera will shut itself off if it's overheating before it does any damage to itself. There's different monitors in there to tell you how hot it is and things, but
and they're very specific about each model. Each model has a different variation to the software, so be sure that you know which model camera you have and that it matches the software that you're using for Match Your Lantern.
All right, here it goes.
Okay, so the first thing that we got to do is make sure you have the latest firmware, official firmware from Canon. And I already have the Magic firmware on this camera. If you want to see the details on putting it on in the first place, check out our previous episode. Otherwise, the gist of it is you just go into the firmware, and the firmware that we copied onto the card will update, either from Magic Lantern or the official Canon firmware. Alright, so now that it's done flashing the firmware, we can restart the camera. And then all we have to do is press the trash can button to bring up the Magic Lantern menu. And we're using an unstable build, so it gives you a warning. And we'll need to load the modules for RAW recording. And the Q button on the 5D Mark II is the profiles button. And we can also have the model load on Setup, and then we go over to our Camera menu. And now actually RAW doesn't work until you press the Live View button. Then you can go back in on your garbage button and you can turn on RAW video. There we go. You select it, we enable it. Profiles, you can select the resolution. For this demonstration, we'll go ahead and do like a 720p. Resolution, you press the Live View button to record in RAW mode. And you'll see how many frames per second it's taking. And let's see, I'm shooting in the dark right now, so there's not much going on. But that's it. There you go. Some beautiful raw footage of my hand in the dark. And right now it's taking up almost 50 megabytes a second. So this is how you record in RAW, and this will create the file, a single file that will run through a program that will convert it to DNG files that we can open up in Adobe After Effects.
All right, so that's the basics right there. It's pretty straightforward. You're kind of just flashing you're putting the firmware on the card that kind of augments the existing firmware. It's
very similar to the original Magic Lantern hacks that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, the only real difference is the fact that there's the new modules.
Yeah.
And it's a module for it.
Yeah, and so with this and everything else, just, have fun with it, play with it. They're going to try and make this better as time goes on. You're only going to see this kind of take off. We're at the very, very beginning of it. It's only been out for maybe a week at the very most right now.
Yeah, it's not terribly long.
But, this is, in some people's opinion, everything they ever wanted out of that camera. Because all they've ever wanted was a raw, image. I think it's a great way to start. I think it really is. I don't know if it's unlocking capabilities or if it's, we'll see how this can really flesh out because it's still really new. I'm optimistic for it. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. So post in the comments below on what else you'd like to see in our show. Any of your thoughts on RAW, whether it's worth it or you'd rather have the smaller file size. Yeah, your opinions.
Some people really are saying, I don't see that big a difference between compressed H.264 and the RAW files.
Yeah.
Which is, that's fair. It's their opinion. Hi, Lala. You want to say hi to everybody? We're going to be done with our show here. You got a messy face. Okay.
Say bye, everybody.
Say bye.
See you next week.
This has been the Too Smart Guys production.